Hello everybody. So now let us see the next experiment, which says that demonstration of data center with the two different hosts. So wherein each host will be having two virtual single virtual machines. So we'll be having two virtual machines, and which are those two virtual machines are created to run the two cloudlets. Right. So where when we'll be creating the two VMs, so the condition is also given such a way that VMs with the different MIPS. Okay, so VMs with the different MIPS. When I say different MIPS, in a sense, in what scenario? So second VM should have the twice the capacity of the first VM. So that's the condition, right? So however, this is the analogy where we have to create a data center. On the data center, we need to create a two data center, two hosts, and on each host will be placing a VM each, right? There are two cloudlets, and as usual, the cloudlets has to be assigned to the each VM. So it's maybe like that based on the requirement. But while creating these two VMs, we need to make sure that one VM will be double the capacity of the other VM, and you'll be creating a two hosts. When you'll be creating two hosts, so it is left to you whether you'll be creating the two hosts with the same capacity or not, right? So before we step in, so this was a previous experiment. So where for two cloudlets we had two VMs, but all the both the VMs were there in the same host. So that was the previous experiment. So on that previous experiment, we have already video on the YouTube, so you can see. So which is a CloudSim example 2. You can go through that because if you can understand this completely, so it will be easy for you to understand the further experiment which we'll be discussing now, right? So this second case, this is the experiment which is already there in the YouTube, so please go through this is the link, which is CloudSim example CloudSim example 2, right? So finally now let's step into the third experiment where we'll be creating so two hosts, maybe of the same capacity or different capacity, and two VMs I have to create. While creating two VMs, second VM must be double the capacity of first VM, right? That was the problem statement what it is defined. Fine. So now let us step into the coding part. So in the code, so however we have second experiment. This was the second experiment. If you see this, so we had already created two VMs, right? We had already created two VMs and two cloudlets. Everything was there. Respective cloudlet is assigned to the respective VM. Again, while creating a data center, also a single host is created. You can observe single host is created. Now this is where based on the requirement, so I need to create one more host, is it not? So now for creating one more host, so I need to have one slight changes in the code. For that, what we'll do, so this let me duplicate this. Okay, so let me duplicate the second experiment, which will become a CloudSim 3. Okay, I don't need CloudSim 2 example 2, I don't need. So okay, this is the CloudSim example 3. So as usual, it is the extension of CloudSim example 2. So it I've already created the two VMs, right? Two VMs is already ready, and two cloudlets are also ready. Both are submitted to the cloud broker, and broker will be mapping. Fine. So as however, based on the algorithm, whatever we discussed in the previous experiments, I hope you remember that. So for the requirement of creating multiple hosts, that is there in the create data center method, in this create data center method. So now directly let me step into the create data center method, and in this create data center method, you can observe this is the part where we created a single host. Is it not? So we created a single host. So now let me what we'll do. So let me replicate this. So let me copy paste this itself for one more time. Okay, and to differentiate what we'll do. So this okay, here I'll say that the p list 1, which is for first you know host. Okay, I'll say the p list 1, and this as p list 1 dot mips, right? So mips will be there as usual. This I'll say host id, this host id. So as it is a first host, so for your differentiation I'll say it as 1 host id with the 1. RAM is there, storage is there, right? So bandwidth is there. Now what I'm doing, I'm creating a host wherein the host id would be 1, and RAM is 2048, and bandwidth is This is the bandwidth which is here, and storage is there, and this is the plist 1. I'll make it out, and this also as plist 1, right? So now it is done. Now once after this is done, so now like as again I have to use one more here. So instead of host id as 0, I'll make it as host id as 2, right? So I'll make it as host id 2 because one more host I need, right? So I'll say that host id 2. If not, I can also, instead of it is left to you. So here you are getting error because you are using the same keyword as a variable. So if I don't want to use like this, okay, if you don't want to use like this, so what you can do in the sense, so instead of int host id is equal to 2, simply you can say that host id plus plus, that's it. So automatically it will be incremented. Earlier it is 1, now it will automatically become 2. Again, this plist, let me make it as plist 2, okay, for the second host, right? Again, here is the RAM is there, and the storage. See, RAM, storage, and bandwidth, those are all those keywords also we have already used here, so you are getting error again. So if you want a different capacity, per suppose you know or first let us go with the same. So if you want this RAM, storage, and the bandwidth to be common for both the hosts, in that case, no, I'll just delete this. Okay, I don't want to be different. RAM, bandwidth, and storage is common for both the hosts. In that case, I'll just have like this itself. Right? Host ID is implemented. Now this host ID is what? 2, because it is implemented here. Again, RAM is same as host 1. Bandwidth is also same. Storage is also same. This is plist 2. Right? Like this, 2 hosts are created. So I'm done with the creation of 2 hosts. So first task is done, where I have created the 2 hosts, but of same capacity of MIPS. See, same MIPS, same RAM, same storage, same bandwidth, everything is same, is it not? So same capacity, I have created the 2 hosts, right? So the first part is done, where have we created the 2 hosts on the data center. Now the second part of the problem statement says that you have to create the 2 VMs. While creating 2 VMs, second VM should be twice capacity than the first VM. So for that, while creating here when we created the 2 VMs, right? So here is a MIPS, whatever we are given as 2000, right? Whatever you mentioned as 2000. Even before that, so let me check the whatever the MIPS of this. See, it is not possible, right? So I hope that I have made to show you the demo different cases in the second experiment. So what I'll do, so here I'll say this MIPS of first VM, MIPS of your host is 1000. Okay, MIPS of this I'll make it as 200. MIPS here as 200. Okay, this 200 I'll retain for the first host, first VM. While creating second VM, what I'll do, I'll just star 2. So now what has become, for the VM2, MIPS has become 400, because here MIPS is 200 for the VM1, MIPS into 2, it will become 400 for the VM2. That's it. So it has become, VM2 has twice the capacity of VM1. Is it not? So then as usual, so we will be submitting the VMless. They will be having a cloudlet. Now you can observe. See, this is the 4 lakh is the length of the cloudlet what you have specified. That will be processed by the same length is there for both the cloudlet 1 and cloudlet 2. You can observe. We are not varied. And as usual, such kind of cloudlets are assigned to the VM1 and VM2. Now you see, as the VM2 is having the double the capacity of VM1, now you can observe how much time it will take to execute. Okay, now let me execute. Run as Java application. Fine. So when I run it as Java application, so let's see. Yes, now you can observe. So this is it. So I hope you observed right here that so capacity of your cloudlet is same. That's what length of your cloudlet is same, is just 4 lakh. Whereas MIPS of your VM1 is 200, MIPS of VM2 will become 400 because we have given as MIPS star 2 here. Now based on that you see that final time taken. Cloudlet 2 is processed by the VM2 within only 1000 seconds. Whereas Cloudlet 1 has taken 2000 seconds because Cloudlet 2 is having the MIPS of 400 because it is MIPS star 2. Whereas VM1 has only 200 MIPS. So it is taking too much of time. This is when, so the second VM has the double capacity of your first VM, right? So then as usual, you can vary the capacity of your, size of your cloudlet and size of, MIPS of your VMs and check it. While doing this, for your information, per suppose, you can ask me this. So MIPS of 200 here is there, right? So whether as however we know that VM1 is placed based on our diagram also you can observe right here VM1 is placed on the host 1, VM2 is placed on the host 2. In such case, so how it is going to happen in the sense here, let's assume that 500, I'll make it as 500. When I make it as 500 and execute, so for the VM1 it is 500, whereas for the VM2 it will become 1000, is it not? For the VM1 it is 500, whereas for the VM2 it will become 1000 is the MIPS. You may ask me, when you are placing two VMs with the 1000 as one MIPS and 500 as the second MIP, right? MIPS for the second VM is 1000, MIPS for the first VM is 500, so it will become 1500. But VM is host is having only 1000. How it is possible? In the sense, definitely it is possible because VM1 is placed on the host 1. So out of 1000 you are utilizing only 500, whereas VM2 is placed on the host 2. Out of 1000 you are utilizing completely 1000, no issues, is it not? So it is possible. But if you see here, if I say this, now you can observe, I made it as MIPS of VM1 as 1000. When I make the VM1 as 1000, VM2 it will be what? 2000, right? Now let me execute. You can observe. See, you can clearly observe that only VM1 can run. VM2 cannot run because VM1 for which how much you have allocated 1000 MIPS. Where is the VM1? It is above the host 1. What is the MIPS of host 1? It is 1000. So VM1 can execute clearly, no problem. Whereas when it comes to VM2, it is MIPS star 2. It will become 2000. So you are allocating 2000 MIPS for the VM2. It's not possible, right? Because wherever the host you placed, wherever the host you placed, it is doesn't have the 2000. So it is not possible. So only even in the result part also you can observe VM2 is not running. So that is what the error you are getting here. The the whatever the error you are getting because allocation of VM2 on the host 2 is failed because of what? Because of MIPS. But if you want to work, what can be done in the sense? See, before you create this host 2, okay, once after host 1 is created with this MIPS, right? So if you want to create here while creating MIPS 2, what you can do in the sense, I'll say like this, that is it is only advances if you want to do it. I'll say MIPS 2 and this I'll make it as 2000, is it not? Now here also I'll say it as MIPS 2. So what I'm doing in the sense, MIPS for the host 1 is 1000, MIPS for the host 2 is I'm setting as 2000. Now let me execute. See, it is possible. It has made possible because see, for the VM1, yes, it is 1000 is the MIPS. Where you placed, it is on the host one. It is which has also has a 1000 MIPS. Whereas for the VM2, it has become 2000 as a MIPS because 1000 star 2. And when you are placing the VM2 on the host 2, even host 2 must also have the 2000. In that case only it will work. I hope you can observe. So earlier when we did not had this different MIPS, and we had the same MIPS, so and the MIPS for the VM1 is when you set as 1000, VM2 has become 2000, but host 2 doesn't have the 2000 MIPS, so you cannot run. So those are all the case. That's the case where you can see second VM is not working, and the exception also you can see the allocation of VM2 is on the host 2 is not possible. Even VM2 cannot be allocated on the host 1 also because host 1 MIPS is already consumed by the VM1. Okay, that's the scenario, right? So you can I hope you got this third example also, where we created two VMs on the host. Even as an additional data, if you want to understand here, let me make it as 100 only. MIPS of your first VM is 100, MIPS of second VM will become 200. Now if I run this, it is working, it will work. But one thing you have to understand that if you practically ask me whether both the VMs are running on each or not, In the sense, practically no. I'll say, see like this. Yeah, you can observe. You can observe VM1 is created on the host 1, VM2 is created on the same data center, which is on the host 2, right? Like that. So VM1 is on the host 1, VM2 is on the host 2. There will be a situation where I'll show you that case. Yeah. So what I'll do, see the MIPS of second VM, I'll say MIPS of second VM, I'll just make it as 100. You understand this? MIPS of second VM is second host is what? MIPS of second host is 100. MIPS of first host is 1000. And what is the MIPS you are allocating for the first VM? It is 100. Whereas second VM is what? 200. Because it's 100 star 2, right? Now let me execute this. You see this, you got the output. That is not the case which you're supposed to see. I want you to see this. See, allocation of VM2 on the host 2 is failed. I repeat, allocation of VM2 on the host 2 is failed because host VM2 requires 200 MIPS, but host 2 had only 100 MIPS. Even then you can see VM2 is also processed. How it is possible? In the sense, among the 1000 MIPS you had for the first host, first VM consumed only 100 MIPS. Okay, for the first host you had 1000 MIPS. In that, VM1 consumed only 100 MIPS. Still 900 is pending, right? So automatically VM2 is also assigned to the host 1 itself. When VM2 supposed to be placed on the host 2, but VM2 requires 200 MIPS, but host 2 doesn't have 200 MIPS. In such case, when the MIPS available in the host 1, so VM2 is automatically allocated for the host 1 itself. That is what it has happened. VM2, it is not placed on the host 2. Allocation is failed. Even then, VM2 is worked on the host 1 itself. Okay, those are all the different case studies which you're supposed to know, right? So yes, I hope you understood. There's a third example on the CloudSim. Thank you.